Gail. Thank you everyone for having me. I actually joined you last year as Gail's guest, and I asked what time it was, not realizing, of course, it's the sunrise Rotary. She told me, man, that's really early. But this year I have a 5-month-old, so I've been getting up at 5 every morning. I've already gotten a lot done today. So we're here to talk about Point Defiance. And Point Defiance is really a jewel in the Metro Park system. It's over 100 years old, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful park. Last year it was rated by, I think, the American Planners as one of the top 10 public spaces in the country. So we're going to look a little bit about both the legacy of the park and how it actually integrates in with the rest of Tacoma, especially Ruston Way. So just to orient ourselves, here we have Point Defiance, and we have, of course, a pedestrian walkway along Owens Beach. Now, this is something that I have been particularly fond of. For 3 years, I was the executive director of City Club. In 1988, City Club said we should have a pedestrian walkway from Dome to Defiance. And you can see that it gets almost all of the way there, along Theophos, Schuster, and then Ruston Way. The next piece of it is being built by Point Ruston. This is on the old Asarco site, and you can see that in yellow there. But you can see that they don't connect yet. So we are working on the missing link to connect these two pieces that will finish that pedestrian promenade. What that means for Point Defiance is that we're going to see more people coming to the park, more people who want to park there and then walk, and then of course all of those people are going to want more services. So it's not just an issue of building a sidewalk. This is really a big thing for Point Defiance. Point Defiance itself started as a park in 1888. It was deeded to the city by the federal government in 1905. And then just for reference here, this yellow part is all slag built from the Asarco smelter. So that's where Point Ruston is and where we're going to try to get that missing link. The Baker track was added about 30 years ago, and again for reference, here is that yellow where we're trying to build the link there. The park, as I said, came from the federal government, and they deeded it to the city. In fact, it is still a city park, even though Metro Parks has operated it for more than 100 years. We started to see development, a lodge, a zoo, and some other buildings that we'll talk about in a little bit. The real park started to come about when Hare & Hare was hired to develop it as a park. Again, about 100 years ago. That plan, if you look at it, is pretty much what Point Defiance looks like today. 1911, they said this is what the park should look like, and that has been the operating plan for the park for 100 years. Over the last 5 years or so, Metro Parks has been working very hard to figure out, well, what does the next 100 years look like? So we've been trying to do a lot of public meetings, really get a sense of what people like about it. And we've divided it into what we consider 3 different distinct sections. The forest section, where you can walk, the attractions, which has Fort Nisqually and the zoo, and then of course all of the great features of the waterfront. These are the 3 main features of the park. In those discussions with the public, our planner, Curtis Hancock, said the thing that he heard over and over was don't change a thing except. Everyone had one thing that they wished was going to be a little bit better about Point Defiance. And he took all of those things together and he created a plan on how we could enhance Point Defiance. And we call it Destination Point Defiance. Point Defiance is either number 1 or number 2 as the most visited site in Pierce County. Mount Rainier and Point Defiance are right up there. So what we're working on is a multi-year program that will enhance the experience of Point Defiance through 3 guiding principles. We're recognizing that issue, don't change a thing. So the first thing is that anything that we want to do needs to preserve the current character. And then these are the accepts. We want to have more activities year-round. This was heard regularly, that it was perhaps a lot of the fun things to do at Point Defiance were seasonal or summer activities. And creating more pedestrian-friendly opportunities through the park, both getting people to the park and getting them around the park. Now that enhance word is a little tricky. How do you enhance something? And so what they came up with is that enhance means that whatever we do has to meet one of those three principles, and it can't conflict with any of them. So that's a way to make sure that whatever happens to the park makes it better and doesn't have any unintended consequences. Which gets us back to the pedestrian issue of this missing link here. So Ruston Way goes there. It just needs to go through Point Ruston, which you can see in the dotted yellow. They're currently working on that right now, and expect that will be open for walking soon. And then we need to figure out this part here, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit. Of course, we have the yacht basin, and there's a road that goes along there. Yacht Basin Road, this is how people get to, or Yacht Club Road, this is how people get into the yacht club right now. The yellow is the missing link trail that we want to build. And you can see a vision for how that might work here. The goal is to go around the yacht basin and then gradually go up the hill and eventually cross over on a pedestrian bridge the ferry dock road so that people don't have to worry about crossing that. And that puts you right into the park. So that's the vision for how that could work. There's also a vision, you can see it here in dotted yellow down here, that we'd like to take out that road, the road to the yacht club, and put in a nice boardwalk along the water. This could be something along the lines of what you see down at the Nisqually Delta, and that would connect you over to Owens Beach. So you would have two access points into the park from this here. Of course, if we're getting rid of that road, we need to figure out how traffic gets in there. And the best place to do that is actually through Point Ruston. This initial road has actually already been built, at least the first part of it. The goal here is that if you can get people going to the yacht club through Point Ruston, you don't need that road up there, and that can become pedestrian. Which is good because there's been, the hillside there is very waterlogged, and we get a lot of water and some mudslides. So this is all Metro Parks land that we see here, and we think about it as a triangle, because here we have this border of Ruston, here we have the Pearl Street entrance and Ferry Dock Road, and then of course here we have the hillside. And all of these uses just fill up this space. We have our boat ramp parking, there's the go-karts right at the tip up here, again for orientation. Soda Sammy has classroom portables here, right over here, and then we have all of our maintenance shops. This piece of land is public land with fabulous views, and we're using it for sheds, which is not a very good use. And so that's what's really driving a lot of this, is we want to make this back and open to the public again. And we put together a vision for what that could look like. And you're seeing it here. You can see in yellow the missing link. What you see in the middle is the large green, which I think would be unique in Tacoma for events, for all sorts of different things. The parking stays here, but it looks a little bit nicer and it's a little bit greener. And then we've got some buildings that we'll talk about in a second. But this opens up a whole new area that enhances Point Defiance by adding more access points into it and is a unique facility on its own. Let me talk about some of these buildings. This pavilion was originally built down on the water and lasted until about 1920. Our vision here is what if we could take that building and actually have it, you can see the octagonal one right here, have a building that gets back to that historic character up on the bluff overlooking the water, something that could be used maybe during the day by Sammy, those students there, and could be rented out for events in the evening. Now this might surprise you, and just to clarify here, this building existed, and there was a large vision to make it part of this monstrous building up here, which was never built. I think we would have remembered that. But there was this goal. You can see these colonnades here. There was a goal of, what if you could make this building even bigger? So this building lasted for a while, and again, like many others, was eventually torn down or burnt. But you can actually see the remnants of those colonnades down here in, I think that's part of the boathouse. So you can see that there's been these colonnades that have been at Point Defiance. And we'd like to bring that back as an all-weather outdoor area. And this gets back to that year-round activities. That if we could have colonnades going around this circular green, we could have outdoor farmers markets, we could have nice evening strolls, even if it were raining. So we'd like to harken back to those colonnades. There could also be a vision of making commercial pads available in these areas here. That could be maybe one of them is the Soda Sammy School, maybe another of them is the commercial building. There's a lot of room there that would blend really well together. And then we have this interesting building here. This is the Nereides, and I always have trouble saying that word, bathhouse. This was the first public swimming pool in Tacoma. It was heated to 80 degrees with mandatory bathing suit rentals. Doesn't that sound nice? 10 cents. And you can see over here an interesting sign by the slide that actually reminds you, please do not spit in the water. So don't spit in the water, but you have to wear our suit. So this is a beautiful old building, and we'd like to bring it back on the other side of that dock, or on the other side of that pedestrian bridge over there. And the vision for that could be, what if we had maybe a large restaurant or brew pub overlooking, and you can see a view from that spot there on what you'd be looking down on, the ferry dock, the peninsula, and the yacht club. Which, of course, this is a great illustration here of, again, how this land is currently used now, and what it could look like later. So a real improvement. The other part here to note, if you ever have used the Ferry Dock Road or tried to go to Anthony's or the Yacht Club, this is just a traffic mess. You're crossing right in front of other lanes of traffic. And this is built in a way that none of that would ever be an issue anymore. We do have another part of the park that's just worth touching on, and that's the peninsula itself. This is, again, forms the yacht basin. It's a slag that the yacht club is built on. There's work on this as well that's happening. It's going to be capped. There's settlement money from ASARCO that's going to help us cap this piece of land here and get a new park, waterfront park out of it that will, again, be integrated in with the rest of the plan. All of this takes into account issues that have been coming up about visioning for the zoo and the aquarium. The aquarium, the North Pacific Aquarium, is 40 or 50 years old. You can't keep salt water in a concrete building for that long without having issues. The corrosion is just going to eventually get you in the end. Rocky Shores itself is also 32 years old, I believe. So here you have two areas that are going to need someday to be fixed up if we want to continue to use those. So this takes all of those into account. There's even a vision, and I won't go into too much, there's even a vision of having maybe a secondary entrance to the zoo from Owens Beach with this idea of some sort of elevator system. In this visioning, it's in a lighthouse. So of course, when I throw all of that out there, it's worth remembering that this is a long-term vision. And of course, we all want to know, well, how exactly we're going to pay for that. And the exciting part is to say that this is actually the first phase of this is already underway and paid for. And that is an interim missing link. We have a good partner in Point Ruston. And so what they're working on doing, because of their issues going on with the ASARCO and their settlement when they got the land, is they're going to take this hillside here. I mentioned some of the mudslides that we'd seen on that. They're going to take that hillside and they're going to use some of that dirt to be the cap over here. So here we have a great use of taking this and using it to cap this. And to do that, they're going to have to build a road. And that road will last after they've used it as a road. And that's going to become the interim missing link until we can get the rest of it put together. So they're also, as part of that, working on giving us they have given us the easement to finish the Yacht Club Road. So what we're doing with them is we're getting this road built here. We're getting our interim missing link and we're getting this capped. It'll just be probably green grass for a while before it gets to be a park with a little bit more interesting things happening in it. But this piece of it should be open to the public. I hate to give a date, but my hope would be next year sometime. So here we have, again, the finished pedestrian promenade, a new park that's going to be grassed over, and just a first step on what could be a long-term plan for the vision of Point Defiance. We have many grant requests out to the state that could help us get part of the way as well. And sometime in the next 5 or 10 years, this could also be part of a capital package. The last capital bond that we did was in 2005, and I could certainly envision that this would be a prime focus on getting Point Defiance improved whenever the next one comes. I'll just leave you with this quote. This was actually from the 1911 Hare and Hare Plan. Probably no other city in this country has such a beautiful natural park. Its setting and relation to the city are unique and ideal. Every citizen of Tacoma should feel it a privilege to become one of its guardians. So thank you for the time to present, and I'd love to answer any questions if you have them.